What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Unique Experience. Today I'm going to share with you my latest acquisition. Alright guys, once again, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Unique Experience, part of the Fujibo Heavy channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is John, and my personal goal is to own and experience as many unique cars as possible. If you're already subscribed, thanks again for tuning in. So if you guys are already following me on social media, I'm sure you've already seen it, but this is the latest acquisition and the newest experience. It is a 2012 Maserati Gran Turismo MC. So, for those who aren't familiar with these cars, the Gran Turismo is a model that I believe started in 07 and ran all the way to 2019. The styling, for the most part, stayed the same as far as like the body shape, but there are different trim levels and different packages that you can get for them. For me, as you guys know, and I've mentioned it in a lot of my videos, aesthetics are very important to me, and the Gran Turismo has always been a really good-looking car, in my opinion. Even the standard S, you know, or your base models, but the MC Sport line specifically looks really good in my opinion. And if you're wondering kind of what the difference is between, you know, a standard Gran Turismo and the MC trim package, so overseas they had what was called the Gran Turismo MC Stradale, and I believe the MC Stradale had some performance upgrades. I believe it had the Skyhook suspension and maybe some other performance modifications. I'm still learning about the car. I'm not sure of what the other differences are, but for me the most important part is the aesthetic upgrades that the MC trim level comes with. So here in the US we got what was called the MC Sport line, and this particular car was spec'd with the carbon as well. I believe you can get MC Sport lines without carbon, but I love carbon. On the exterior, the upgrades that you get is a hood. There are actually two vents at the top. The front bumper is different. The front fenders are different. Normally your standard Gran Turismo is just gonna have these three vents. The MC Sport line has this bigger vent here. It kind of reminds me of an ISF. The side skirts are different. The rear bumper is different. It has like fins at the bottom, or vents. And then the exhaust on the MCs come up towards the center, and there's a dual exhaust coming out towards the middle of the rear bumper, up kind of top, as opposed to the standard Gran Turismos have the exhaust tips at the bottom, like most cars with dual exhaust. Also, the carbon goodies that you get with an MC package is you get carbon mirrors, you get carbon door handles, and you get a carbon fiber wing. On the inside, there's a lot of carbon fiber trim that you get. All along the door panels, you have carbon. The steering wheel, the entire steering wheel in the 2012 is carbon all the way around. I believe when you go up to 2013, it does come with like a facelift, right? You get LED lighting up front. The steering wheel, carbon steering wheel on the 13 and up is a little bit different. I think it has like a perforated leather along the sides, and then the carbon's mainly on the top and the bottom. And then also with the 2013 and up, you have a vent that's like right here in the center that's front facing, which looks awesome, but I personally like the way that this one looks. On the inside of mine, as I mentioned, not only is there a ton of carbon, but I thought that I would add some upgrades to the interior as well, just to kind of complement the existing carbon fiber trim. So what I did was I added the, I guess I'll just go ahead and jump into the modifications that I've done, because I have had the car for almost 2 months now. And, you know, obviously I have done some modifications to kind of make it my own, right? So on the inside, since we were just talking about that, I'll go ahead and go over the modifications that I made. It's very minimal. As I mentioned, there's a ton of carbon fiber trim on the inside. The clock bezel and the infotainment bezel, I reached out to a company called Arutu Auto, and they actually sold carbon fiber replacement trim for what was already existing in there, which is just like a standard like matte black finish. and I replaced those pieces with carbon. And the reason why I really liked the pieces that they offered is that the weave and the finish looked pretty close to the factory. It's always kind of strange when you're buying aftermarket carbon fiber and then you put it up against, say it's factory carbon fiber. Sometimes it won't match, whether it's the finish or the weave. But everything matches pretty perfectly. With the inside, it's black Nero, which is black, and then it has white stitching along the seats and the black trident crest on the headrest. On the outside, if you guys haven't noticed, the car does sit a little bit lower. I did add a set of KW V3 coilovers onto this car. And what's really cool about installing the suspension on these cars, if you guys are familiar with installing aftermarket suspension on your vehicle, especially if you do coilovers, historically, when you have your aftermarket shock and strut assembly, there are bolts that are already coming out of it, and then basically you put those through the the strut tower, wherever it mounts, and then there are nuts that hold the shock into place. Whereas with these Maseratis, there's actually, with the strut tower at the top, there's just a hole, and then it bolts in through the bottom. So what's really cool is if you're looking to do suspension on these cars, you're able to actually unbolt the shock without really opening the hood or opening the trunk, just because it bolts from the bottom. Unless you have the skyhook suspension, if you do have that, you will have to access the top of the strut to unplug the skyhook sensors. And usually if you do switch to coilovers, they come with cancelers. Sometimes they come with it, sometimes you may have to buy it aftermarket as well. But for those who aren't familiar with skyhook suspension, it's similar to like Porsche's PASM, right? Their Porsche Stability Management System. So you press the button, stiffs up the suspension, kind of makes it a little more engaging if you want to do some back road spirited driving. So I did the KW V3 coilovers just because it's a very good quality suspension. I did a set of 20-inch Volk TE37 Ultras in gloss black, which I'm a huge fan of. As you guys know, I've owned a lot of JDM stuff, and I wanted to do something different, something that no one's really done before. So a couple people in the Maserati forum were very helpful in helping me to kind of determine, what offset to go with and the center board, just to make sure that everything would work. So I did the set of TE37s. When I bought the car, it did need front rotors, but for me, I do believe in preventative maintenance. So I reached out to a company called Alpine Performance, and they sold me a set of drilled and slotted rotors. I did pads and brake wear sensors from Top Euro Performance, and we just did the whole set. So this way the brakes will wear evenly, and they work very well. As far as tires, I ended up going with the Michelin Pilot Sport All Seasons, just because I'd like to be able to drive this car in any weather condition if needed. Primarily, this is a fair weather car for me, so I only drive it when the weather's nice, or if, obviously if the roads are dry, there's no salt on the road, anything like that. I have pulled it out in the snow for pictures and things of that nature, but for the most part, it's only driven when it's nice outside. So moving along to the back, there are Trident emblems on the rear quarter panels that were chrome. I swapped those out to black. Just looking at the car and its theme, I thought white and black was kind of the theme that we wanted to stick with. So in the back of the vehicle as well, there is a chrome Maserati lettering badge on the trunk. I changed that to black. Below that is a trim piece that is chrome. I wrapped that in gloss black vinyl, and then I took it to a shop and had the taillights partially tinted. So if you look at the taillight, it's red on the outer part, and in the center is like your reverse light, your turn signal. And to flow with the white and black theme that I was going for, I had vinyl applied over that. So this way it gives it that smoke look, but if for whatever reason I'd have to take it off, it just peels right off. You don't have to worry about it, getting too abrasive to try to remove like the spray-on tint. So the vinyl was the easiest route to go and the most reversible. So as far as the driving experience with this car, you know, it's a very comfortable car. These cars fall more into the Gran touring class, right? So it's not necessarily a sports car where it's designed to, you know, handle really good and just rip around turns really fast, or you know, it's not like a straight out sports car. The Gran Tours are designed to be a little more comfortable and luxurious. For me, this car is for somebody who wants something that looks good, something that's comfortable, and something that sounds good too. The Gran Turismo is probably one of the best sounding cars that I've heard in a while. Especially coming out of you know, a V8. It's a very refined sound. As I mentioned, under the hood, it is a 4.7 liter Ferrari V8. This particular car has a Larini X pipe. That's the only exhaust upgrade, and I think it sounds phenomenal. Upon cold start, if you do, you know, when you do start it up, because of the X pipe, I don't know if that allows, you know, the air to just flow a lot faster or a lot more than it normally does, but these cars do have a valved exhaust, so sometimes upon startup you'll hear like a little bit of a rattling almost. It almost sounds like a heat shield, you know, the exhaust is hitting the heat shield or something, but it's actually the flaps or the valves in the exhaust moving. And basically as soon as you hit the sport button on the dash, it makes it go away and it opens up the exhaust, and you can audibly tell that it's open because it does get noticeably louder. So the outside of the car is pretty much one thing that I fell in love with, and I remember when I went to look at it, as soon as he started the vehicle up, I was like, I'm sold. I want it, you know, because it's such a good sounding car. And the inside is pretty nice. I wouldn't say there's anything that stands out. I mean, you can tell there is quality, the quality and the workmanship of the interior. The seats are just, they're very comfortable. They're really good quality. They don't feel cheap or anything like that. I guess my only thing that, you know, I think could be better is the infotainment system. So from 2007 to 2017, for 10 years, Maserati has a dial pad below the navigation screen. So not until 2018, 2019 did it get the upgraded, bigger screen, touch screen that's feels a little more modern. It feels, you know, like it would meet today's standards. But aside from that, I mean, I really like the car. I think it's perfect for me because I'm not one to really care about driving very fast or, you know, whipping it around corners. I just like to cruise, and the most important part of that is that it can accommodate the family. The back seats in this car are actually pretty comfortable, and you could put you know, adults in the back and they'd be relatively comfortable for a, you know, a Gran touring car, something that's not designed to necessarily be for a family, but it is very comfortable. And you can tell that it is because that it was designed for comfort, because the car has, I want to say, like 6 cup holders. There are tons of cup holders in there, and it's just a phenomenal car. I really like it, and I think this is absolutely a daily drivable exotic, and that's what I think it was designed for. And you know, like when you go to Porsche, if you're not getting a 6-speed manual transmission, you can get the PDK, which is the Porsche dual clutch, or a BMW DCT, where you have those very responsive, engaging transmissions. These cars have what's called the ZF transmission. It does feel a little sluggish, especially compared to you know, BMW's DCT, Porsche's PDK, but it's still, it's a reliable transmission, you know, so it has, you know, the option where it's just a pretty standard automatic where you can put it in drive. If you want to put it in manual mode, you can push it over to the side and push it up or down, or there are these massive paddle shifters, you know, right behind the steering wheel that you can press. And when you do hit the button, there is a delay, but it will shift. And like I said, the biggest thing is that, you know, they're pretty reliable. So is it as engaging as a DCT PDK? No, but it's not going to give you any real issues as long as you stay on top of it. So yeah, that is pretty much the car. That's everything that I've done to it. Oh yeah, the only, I guess, other thing that I've really done is I did tint the windows 20%. When I did get it, it did have window tint on there, but it was very light. I want to say it was 50%. So I just had my tinter put 20% on top of the 50, and believe it or not, it's still not that dark. You can still clearly see inside, especially because the windshield is so big. So, so far, I really like the car. I will say I have a whole new level of respect for these cars. I think it just really kind of comes down to your preference. But, you know, as I mentioned before, if you're looking for something that looks good, something that sounds good, something that's comfortable and can accommodate your family or friends, you know, I think that this would definitely be a really good contender. As I mentioned before as well, you know, the MSRP on these cars when they first came out was somewhere around $130,000, $140,000. Unfortunately, Maserati is one of the brands that has historically you know, depreciated a lot, right? So I think at $130,000, $140,000, it definitely would not be a top pick contender. But once depreciation hits, you know, and you can get these cars for around, you know, 50 grand, something along those lines, you know, I think you're getting a whole lot of car for the money. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. That's pretty much my review of it. Pretty much, you know, at this point, I have no further plans. I really don't want to overdo the car. I do believe there is, you know, such thing as doing too much, right? And I think with the suspension and the wheels and the tires and the small cosmetic upgrades, I think that everything just ties together nicely, and I'm super happy with it. So for now, I think the plan will just be to drive it and enjoy it until the new experience comes along. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, consider subscribing. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next video. Peace.